Welcome back to the show. Now, the 2023 annual Group of 20 or G20 concluded, that is, on Sunday in New Delhi, India, after it kicked off on a historic note with the announcement that the African Union would be joining the G20 as a permanent member of the Group of G20. Now, the permanent admission means the continental body has now joined the world's richest countries, therefore becoming the second regional organization to become a permanent member of the G20 after the European Union. So this collection of, 20 of the world's largest economies was actually formed in 1999, and it was conceived as a bloc that would, bring together the most important industrialized and developing economies to discuss international economic and financial stability, as well as other pressing global issues. Now, to unpack this and what this means, or rather the African Union and what it stands to benefit by being a part of the G20, is political analyst Dr. Marius Kudumo. A very good morning, Doctor. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Good, thank you so very much. I think, Doctor, this is definitely a big accomplishment for us, definitely one for the books. But in terms of starting off this conversation, being a member of G20 means there is now a continental body that can negotiate on behalf of the continent, especially, in smaller countries within the AU. What does the AU stand to actually benefit from becoming part of G20?
Thank you very much. The issue is that this body deals with economic matters, with global trade. The African Union becoming a member means that the economic, trade, and other issues affecting Africa are raised at this platform, are discussed at this platform. Therefore, Africa that has been excluded is now included and participating in the discussions related to global trade and economic development and sustainability. So it is significant in this way because it is about inclusion.
Thank you so much for that, Doctor. Now, South Africa is one of the countries or the founding countries of the G20. What role did South Africa actually play in lobbying for the continental body becoming part of the G20, and considering that they will be hosting the G20 in 2025?
Yeah, I think South Africa has always been raising this issue at international platform, that Africa as a bloc is supposed to be represented. I think South Africa was not comfortable in them alone attending and participating, and in them raising issues that are for the whole continent, for Africa. I think there have been some sensitivity from South Africa, and on this basis, they have been raising this matter that the African Union needed to be represented, and now we are seeing that they are represented. So they have been raising this issue.
Right. Now, G20 members represent about 85% of the global GDP and about 75% of the world's trade. Okay, so what does this mean, if you further elaborate, for the continent in terms of economic interest and trade as well?
Yeah, look, when you talk about the G20, these are what they regard as the rich countries in the world. And they have been discussing issues that are of interest to them. If the African Union is represented, then we are saying that they will be discussing also issues of trade and economic development that are of interest to Africa. And obviously, like I said, there is inclusion in this body, and we'll see how these issues will be raised and actually how they will be responding to this. I think one point to emphasize is that trade and economic development in a globalized world is also global. Therefore, if the African Union is represented and they are raising those issues, then obviously we might see that there is interest in the development of Africa from all the corners of the world. So it can also facilitate trade with Africa as a bloc together with the rest of the world.
Thank you so much. Now, in terms of rather your opinion, now that the AU does have a seat at the table, Doctor, what are some of the issues or continental issues that should come out at this table, on this table, or should be at the top of the list, and why would you say so?
Yeah, look, Africa have the Agenda 2063. In that agenda, they have expressed their aspirations as well as the issues that need to be addressed. One of it is improving the standard of living of the people of Africa. There's also economic transformation, as well as modernizing the agriculture in Africa, especially in the context of climate change and building resilient institutions. So obviously, the issue of development, as outlined in the agenda of the African Union, ought to be the key issues there. Food security is critical, especially with the impact of climate change on livelihoods. So I think the issue in Africa is improving the standard of living of people, making our institutions effective and efficient in their response to the issues that are affecting Africa, modernizing our agriculture to ensure that food security. Then, of course, trade and development. These are the issues that should come out. So what I'm trying to say is, it's not what someone imagined what the issues are. The issues has been articulated in the various developmental agendas of Africa. And these are the issues that Africa need to bring to the table, including peace and security in this critical.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, how best could the AU possibly represent the continent so that, you know, what the continental body represents at this forum actually would reflect on the continent?
Yeah, look, the African Union have different structures at which decisions are made. The summit is the highest one. So the resolution of summits becomes one of the agenda of the African Union, in addition to the development plan that I have highlighted. When you look at agriculture, for example, in terms of spending on agriculture, there have been the Malabo Declaration, the Maputo Declaration in terms of what is the GDP that African countries are supposed to be spending on agriculture. So I'm saying that this issue of Africa speaking with one voice is critical. In other words, Africa, through their structures, must identify which are the issues that they want to bring to these G20 meetings. Obviously, they are articulated in the plans. Food security, as I say, is critical. Peace and security is critical. Modernizing our agriculture is critical. Everything is actually intended to improve the living conditions of people. I think Africa must move away from the interest of the state to the interest of the people, meaning we must move from state security to human security, basically meaning improving the conditions of the people of Africa. I think these are the issues that they need to bring on the table. How they should arrive at these issues, they should derive from them from the discussions of the African Union, from the declarations that they have made, from the plan that the African Union has put on the table. I think that is it, but it's critical that they speak with one voice if they have to make an impact in the international arena.
Yeah, indeed, Doctor, very important, speaking with one voice. Now, if we just backtrack to the recently concluded G20 in New Delhi, India, what would you say are some of the other outcomes, worth mentioning today?
Yeah, look, in addition to admitting Africa, there was also an emphasis on multilateralism, meaning that the discussions in the world must be about the interest of the globe as such. So they have emphasized this issue of strengthening multilateralism and cooperation, in addition to specific agenda items like your ICT, economic development, and so on and so on. But obviously, significantly was the decision to admit the African Union. But multilateralism is not only with political matters, but also with economic and other matters that are negotiated at the global level. As I always say, international relations is not about charity, it's about interest. And therefore, the European countries, the G20, their engagement with Africa is not out of charity. There are benefits that they can derive from Africa, and Africa must make sure that they derive also benefit from this global economic forum.
Indeed. So, Doctor, is there any last words you'd like to leave us with regards to our admission or the admission of the AU or anything else?
Yeah, no, I think the African Union needs to strengthen its institutions so that they are resilient, they are attuned to our times, and that the agenda is properly articulated. And that will avoid individual countries speaking and allowing Africa to speak with one voice. I think that is important if Africa has to be respected in the global arena.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kudumo. I wish you a lovely Tuesday, and thank you so much for speaking with us this morning.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right. There you have it. Making time for us here this morning is political analyst Dr. Marius Kudumo, speaking on that is the African Union's admission, into the G20. Quite a big step for us, quite a big accomplishment for us. And like you also said there, international trade isn't about charity. It is indeed about interest. And there lay plenty of that, from both parties.